Okay, so for my next project, I really like this painting and I saw this idea online. So then I ended up finding a coloring page that I could possibly trace on the light box and then paint. However, the whole flamingo would be super hard to do because just think about painting these tiny lines. So if you ask me, Miss V, I can like cut this so that it's only part of it. So I can crop it out where I only just want the head and the neck. So that way, then when I print it, you're only tracing that part, which makes it bigger and a lot easier to do. Then I could always do just the traditional flamingo, kind of like this picture. Or I then searched up some other ones that are funnier, that give it more personality. So this painting's just kind of plain. If I were to do this one, it's super funny. Same thing like before, I probably wouldn't do the whole thing because that would be very challenging. But maybe I just want the top half just to give it the look of, that you can kind of tell that there's a floaty. And then we would crop it, and maybe I'm only painting this part. And then same with this one. This one's a little more cartoony than this one, but I'd probably just end up cropping it just to do the head. So the next thing I'm gonna do is finally pick the flamingo that I would like, which is probably gonna be this one because I think it's hilarious. And I'm gonna print out that picture and trace it on the light box. Now that I've got it traced, I am gonna tape off the edges because I really like that white border on the edge. It also helps me when I am painting. So you just have to make sure you line it up against the edge of the paper so that way it's all the same thickness, and then I stick it to the table. I will be referring back to this photo to try and copy the same colors. I'm not going to do it exactly the same because that would be way more challenging than I would like it to be. But I'm going to just do the pink and not worry about these like shadows and highlights in the black. And then I'll do kind of these. And then once it's all dry, then I'm going to go back and do all the black with a black marker on top of it. I also think I'm going to add a background because I think that'll make it look really nice. But since this is a harder painting, you could probably just leave it white. But I'm just going to add a background first. I think I'm going to do like blue. So one of the major things about painting is to take your time. So make sure you're going very slow and smoothing out all your globs. Also try not to have way too much paint on your brush. It will be very hard to paint with. So when you dip in your brush, just make sure it's just getting on the little hairs or the bristles. And then when you are painting, I try and think of it like tracing around the shapes. So I always like to hold my brush straight up, and then I go very slowly to trace around it. And then I have to remember, okay, it's gonna be traced over with a black line. So if I'm not quite on the line, that's okay. So if there's like some white spots like this, a gap, it'll kind of be okay because I can cover that with my black marker. Also remember to smooth out your globs, and when I paint, I like to all paint sort of in the same direction. So here I'm all smoothing out the same way, but if I was to paint and then it's going everywhere, it's gonna look kind of weird. So try to like smooth it out all in the same direction, and you'll have a nicer looking painting. So this blue is going to be the background. I'm just going to try to carefully paint this around all my different things, and then I'm going to move on to my flamingo. Okay, one of the tips I have is if you have like extra paint, let's say in this section, like I have a whole bunch of globs in here, but there's nowhere else to move it around, I like to then paint in other spots. So I'm gonna take the paint off my brush here because I'm spreading it around. Then I take the globs of paint and I just kind of scoop it up with my brush. I just paint over it and then it'll go on my brush, and then I just keep on painting to move around that paint. So that way I'm not having globs everywhere. Okay, so now that my paint is dry, I'm ready to put on the finishing touches, like the black marker. And then also some of the lines are gonna be way too small for the black marker because the black marker is kind of thick. So I'm gonna be using a black colored pencil instead. So just note when I'm doing a small area, it's probably because I'm with a black pencil. Also, some areas needed to be a darker color, and instead I just painted them just one color of like green. So I'm going to be using like colored pencils to go back and add those details. I'll show you an example over here. All right, so I will probably darken up right here where it's underneath because that's a darker green and I didn't paint that. I might add my colored pencil right here because that's supposed to be darker also. Then I'll probably do something in the glass, and I'm gonna add my orange dots onto my little swimsuit. And then I'm not sure what else I might do. I might add some orange just on this lemon slice. So here we go. So right now I'm just looking around to see which lines are really thin that I would probably need to use this black colored pencil. I also have my photo up so I can tell. Definitely most of the times with your pictures, anything around the face is usually tinier details. So I'm gonna be doing that, and then also around their bathing suit, that is like really tiny lines. So I'm gonna use that with the colored pencil. I forgot another thing I was gonna do. So these white kind of highlight parts are really harsh. So I'm probably gonna use a colored pencil of a similar color. Like I'll use this and just lightly make little lines in it just to shade it a little bit, just so it's not so harsh. Same thing with the black. But then where I have this in the pink right now, I'm gonna put just the pink there. So still working on the colored pencil lines, and then I'll get out the big marker. Okay, I'm just making my last like looks to see what else I could possibly fix, or if I missed something. I want to make sure my blacks are really nice. I also was looking at that idea picture the whole time. So that really helped me make sure I'm getting it to look like the picture and see where I'm missing. Some of the things I could possibly do is make inside of the glass look different than on the outside. I could possibly take this blue colored pencil and just kind of, oh, that's really dark. Make it a little bit darker so it doesn't match the background too much. Okay, and then if I have any places where there's still a lot of white, so I might zoom in. Okay, so even on my painting, I have places that are still white. Instead of going back with paint, I might just fill it in with a colored pencil. But try not to get like too carried away, but I think this would look better than leaving it white because you're gonna really notice the white a little bit more. So then if I zoom out, you probably won't be too noticeable. Okay, now the exciting part is to take off the tape. So slowly peel the tape off so you don't want to rip your paper. And it's totally normal for some of the like paper to get peeled off in the tape. So we just don't want it to like rip your paper or start ripping off the paint, kind of destroying your picture. Okay, and now I'm just gonna erase those extra pencil marks. There's only just a couple down here, and then I'm all the way done.